What's going on, YouTube fam, and welcome back to another video. And today we are going to be talking about, is Portuguese necessary when visiting Brazil or living in Brazil? And I'm going to tell you, yes, it's very necessary. There's no ifs, ands, or maybes about that. Speaking Portuguese is necessary in Brazil. So in this video, I'm going to break down to you why that is, the whole situation with that, and why it's very important to learn Portuguese if you're planning on visiting Brazil or staying there for a certain amount of time, especially if you want to live there. So some of you out there know, I believe I mentioned in some of my videos before that I used to live in Brazil. I lived in São Paulo, Brazil for 3 years. Been around the country. I speak Portuguese fluently. And even before I went to live there, I visited. I love Brazil. I've been to 25 countries, but it's my favorite country in the world. It's just it's just an amazing place. I can't pick against it. If you ask me, it's always going to be me thinking like, what's your favorite country? Brazil's always going to be the one. So I love that country so much. And so I'm going to so I know the culture very well, and I speak the language. So I'm going to tell you exactly why Portuguese is necessary in Brazil. First off, as you know, Brazil is, or some of you may not know, but now you will know, Portuguese is the official language of Brazil, and it is the only Portuguese-speaking country in the Americas. And it's interesting because they're surrounded by Spanish-speaking countries, with the exception of Suriname, who speaks Dutch, and Guyana, who speaks English. Other than that, you got Venezuela, Peru, Bolivia, Paraguay, Uruguay, Argentina, and Peru, Colombia, Venezuela, and even Ecuador and Chile, who don't have a border with Brazil, are still close. There's all Spanish-speaking countries. So they're the unicorns of Latin America, okay? And I say it's necessary, and I'm going to tell you why. Brazilians, now let me first tell you, Brazilians are very, very hospitable, amazing people, man. I can't even say that enough. They're very hospitable, amazing, and if you make attempts to speak Portuguese, they are greatly appreciated. But a lot of people will go there and they'll be like, I'll just speak some Spanish, whatever. No, don't do that. Let me tell you one thing. Do not go to Portugal. Do not go to Brazil speaking Spanish. They consider that very disrespectful. Even though there are many Brazilians who can understand Spanish, they can speak to you in Spanish, and Portuguese and Spanish have a lot of similarities, and a lot of the words are identical, and a lot of the words are spelled the same but pronounced slightly different. It's a respect thing. Don't go there, start speaking Spanish, because they'll just speak to you in Portuguese. You can't blame them, right? You can't blame them. Just learn a little bit of the language. Portuguese can be difficult. And I understand that because I learned it and I understand how it is, grammatically and everything like that. But it's worth the effort. And I'm going to tell you why. If you go to Brazil and you attempt to speak Portuguese, Brazilians appreciate this very much. They appreciate that, and they say, okay, this person is trying to speak my language. And even if your Portuguese is terrible, they're going to meet you halfway. And if you're an English speaker and they can speak some English, they will, try to speak your language. Or if a Brazilian that knows German, if you speak German, whatever it may be, they will meet you halfway. Or if they don't speak any other languages, they'll speak slowly and make it to where you can understand. They really appreciate that. So yeah, don't go to Brazil, think I'm just going to speak some Spanish, because I'm telling you, I've seen some people that are kind of arrogant. They're like, oh yeah, why don't people speak Spanish in Brazil? Well, we're the English speakers. It's a Portuguese speaking country. I'm not going to go to China, which, you just speak Mandarin or Cantonese, and then be like, oh, well, why aren't people speaking German or Spanish or French? Because that's not the language of the country. Now, of course, in any given country, you'll find people that speak other languages, of course. But it's first a respect thing, second, a survival thing as well. Because if you're going to be there for an extended period of time, yes, there are many Brazilians who speak English, especially ones who work in the sector of IT, tech, any of those English is required. Doctors, there's a few, and the tourism industry, of course, they have to speak English. But I can tell you right now, you could be put in the middle of Brazil and you may find no English speakers anywhere, okay? Or Spanish speakers, or whatever other language you're thinking they may speak, okay? So Portuguese is very necessary to learn. Now, for you Spanish speakers out there, I'm going to give you a quick example of how similar it is so you could see the similarities between the two languages. So I'm going to say something in Spanish, and then I'm going to say something in Portuguese, and you'll be able to see how close it is. So I'm going to say this for those of you who don't speak either language, and I'll translate it in English first and then tell you. I am at the party with my friends, all right? In Spanish, estoy en la fiesta con mis amigos, okay? In Portuguese, estou na festa com meus amigos. Now, you can see how similar that is, right? So I think if you're a Spanish speaker or Italian speaker of a Latin language, you'll get a good grip on that, because I learned Spanish before I learned Portuguese. And I'm not gonna lie to you, sometimes it was a little bit confusing. I'm like, oh man, I'm like trying to think, is Spanish, Portuguese is like, but after a while you learn to separate the two. And, it just becomes a thing of nature. And yes, it is necessary to speak Portuguese in Brazil. And some people, and it's crazy to me because I've seen some travelers, some YouTubers that talk about that, or even just people commenting on the internet. They're like, oh, well, Portuguese, that's a deal breaker because I can't speak English or Spanish. So, I'm not going to go to Brazil. Like, you're missing on an opportunity to see a beautiful country just because you won't take a little bit of time to learn the local language. And that goes for any country in the world. I mean, if you're going to go stay an extended period of time in a country, I mean, even if you're just staying for a week, a couple of words, man, that goes a long way. The locals appreciate it. It opens doors for you, friendships, people, it's a respectable thing. So, just try. I mean, even if it's difficult, and I know I've been in places in Europe like Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Czech Republic, where their language is so difficult, but I just try to learn at least a couple of words, maybe a few phrases, as difficult it was, to show respect for, the local people. Even though I know that they all speak great English, I don't want to be arrogant as a traveler, as a guest in someone's country, and just assume, oh, well, since you all speak English, just start speaking English. Like, I always try, at least that little effort, But yeah, if you're going to Brazil, Portuguese is necessary because, yes, if you go to places like Rio or like, other destinations that are touristic, you'll find English speakers, especially in the hotels, or that do guided tours and things like that. But if you are going there and you're venturing off the path, even for simple interactions, you go to a restaurant, Portuguese is necessary. You go to a bar, you go to a corner store, a pharmacy, the hospital, whatever it may be, Portuguese is necessary. So I highly recommend that if you plan on going to Brazil, which I highly recommend you go to Brazil, even if you're just to visit, it is an amazing country. Speak some Portuguese, learn the local language. And if you want to be there for an extended period of time, you can take Portuguese lessons even in Brazil. There's a lot of good institutions that will, that have great teachers, and you can take Portuguese lessons and, just get a one-up, you know what I mean? And Brazilians will appreciate that. Now, Brazilians are, in my experience, the most hospitable group of people I've ever met. There's other countries too that come close to that, but Brazilians are just, the hospitality is on another level. The people are genuinely nice like that, very welcoming, especially to foreigners. Brazilians are very welcome to foreigners, very curious about your culture, where you're from. And if, let's say, you're an English speaker and they're learning English, they're going to want to practice their English with you. You know what I mean? Or maybe you speak French and they're learning French. They're going to want to practice their French with you, but they're very welcoming. You can meet a Brazilian for a week and feel like you've known them for a year, So that is one of the many beautiful things about the country of Brazil. So yes, if you go to Brazil, I recommend, especially if you have a time to where you're going a few months from now, for example, just take the time and learn some Portuguese lessons. You can learn for free YouTube videos. You can buy, a book. You can do Duolingo. There's all kinds of different ways you can learn for free. And I'm telling you, it'll open doors for you in Brazil. Not only that, it will make things easier for you. And even if you don't have to speak amazing Portuguese. It doesn't have to be fluent, doesn't have to be great, just enough to the basics, you know what I mean? Survival Portuguese. And I'm telling you, it's gonna take you a long way. So yes, long story short, Portuguese is necessary in Brazil. I highly recommend, as a person who's very experienced in Brazil, that you learn some Portuguese, even if it's the basics. Trust me, it's gonna make all the difference, you know what I mean? All the difference in your trip and your experience, and you're gonna see how that is, the difference of, just being lost, scratching your head, to be able to at least say a few basic phrases or at least understand what's going on. And I'm telling you, Brazilian people are amazing. Like I said, if your Portuguese is not that great, they will work with you. They appreciate that, all right? So, few takeaways from this video: just don't go speaking English, just don't go speaking Spanish, especially Spanish. Because they're gonna be like, if you don't get out of here with that, they're responding with Portuguese, all right? And learn some of the basics. And I'm telling you all, trust me, it will be amazing experience just knowing a little bit of the language, all right? So that was all. I just want to let you know of that because maybe some people are curious. I've seen other threads about that. Some people feel disheartened about going to Brazil because they can't get by with certain other languages. But yes, there are many Brazilians who do speak different languages. There's a German-speaking population in Brazil, Japanese, because they have the largest Japanese population outside of Japan. You have a lot of Brazilians that speak good English as well, to speak Spanish and Italian and different things. But I'll tell you right now, learn some Portuguese, because that's the only guaranteed language in Brazil, and that's the language of the country, and everybody speaks it. And I'm telling you, it'll make all the difference. All right. So that's all for you. Just wanted to give you that little quick tidbit about the beautiful country in Brazil. I want to make more content. I need to go back to Brazil, and of course, I'm taking you with me. A lot of cool things coming to the channel this year. I thank you all for following me. If you're new here, hit the like, subscribe. Appreciate you all out there. Other than that, y'all have a great day, great week, great year, and I'll catch you in the next video soon. Peace.